They say the smoke was so thick it turned day into night. For 3 months, the fire did not stop. Manuscripts burned, libraries collapsed, centuries of human thought turned to ash. These weren't just books. They were the Prajnapa Ramita Sutras. They were the Abhidharmakosha, medical texts describing surgeries Europe would not attempt for another 500 years. This was not the loss of a building. This was the loss of memory. And when memory dies, civilizations follow. What burned was not just a university, it was the world's memory, centuries before the word university even existed. Before the fire, Nalanda stood in what is today Bihar, India, quiet, orderly, alive with thought. Nalanda was founded in the 5th century CE under the Gupta Empire. Oxford University would not exist for another 600 years. Cambridge University for nearly 700. When Europe was still searching for universities, Nalanda was already teaching the world. This was not a monastery alone. It was a residential university. More than 10,000 students, over 2,000 teachers. Scholars arrived from China, Korea, Tibet, Persia, Sri Lanka, and Central Asia. There were no easy admissions. Entrance examinations were oral. Gatekeepers were scholars. Only 20 to 30% were allowed inside. Excellence was not encouraged here. It was enforced. A normal day at Nalanda looked like this. At sunrise, meditation and debate. By midday, lectures on astronomy, mathematics, medicine, logic, grammar, metaphysics. At night, public philosophical arguments that could last for hours. Education here was not memorization. It was challenge. Students were taught to question even their teachers. At its heart stood the library complex. 3 massive buildings. Ratnasagara, Ocean of Jewels. Ratnodati, Sea of Jewels. Ratnaranjaka, Jewel Adorned. 9 stories tall. So tall that monks joked the upper floors touched the clouds of wisdom, hundreds of thousands of manuscripts written on palm leaf, birch bark, and copper plates. In 631 CE, the Chinese scholar Xuanzang arrived. He stayed for years. When he left, he needed 20 horses just to carry the books he could take, 657 texts. And he still left thousands behind, because he couldn't carry them all. No one imagined this would be the last normal day. Nalanda had no army, no walls, no soldiers. Knowledge was considered sacred, not political, not military, protected by belief. But belief does not stop swords. As centuries passed, funding weakened, patronage declined, protection faded. The fire did not arrive suddenly. Neglect came first. In the late 12th century, that neglect met violence. A Turkic military commander named Bakhtiar Khilji entered the region of Bihar. He was not a scholar. He was not a patron of learning. He was a raider, moving quickly, seeking territory, seeking control. Nalanda was not a fort. It had no walls, no soldiers, no weapons. To an invading army, it did not look like a university. It looked like an undefended settlement, quiet monks, books, and buildings that offered no resistance. Historical records confirm that Nalanda was attacked and destroyed. How much of this destruction came from intention, how much from ignorance, and how much from indifference is still debated. But there is also a legend, preserved in later Buddhist and regional accounts. According to these sources, Khilji fell gravely ill during his campaign. His own physicians failed. In desperation, a senior scholar from Nalanda was summoned to treat him. Often identified as Rahul Shribhadra, Khilji reportedly refused what he considered foreign medicine, so the monk devised another method. Medicinal paste was applied to the edges of pages of the Quran. As Khilji turned each page, the medicine entered his body. Slowly, he recovered. But the legend says recovery did not bring gratitude. It brought fear. If these monks possessed knowledge beyond imperial science, then that knowledge was dangerous. And if it could not be controlled, it had to be erased. Whether this account is literal truth or symbolic memory, history agrees on one outcome. Nalanda was destroyed. The libraries were set on fire, not accidentally, systematically. Palm leaf manuscripts burn easily, but when stacked in vast numbers, they burn slowly. According to accounts, the fire did not last days, it lasted months. Smoke rose continuously, so thick it is said to have darkened the sky. Ash fell over the surrounding regions. Monks ran into the flames, trying to save what they could. Some never came out. Others fled with students, carrying fragments of texts, trying to preserve knowledge by memory alone. Imagine that moment. A scholar who has studied one subject for decades must suddenly decide, which text do I save, which sutra, which medical procedure, which astronomical calculation. You cannot save everything. Memory is not a library. Buildings can be rebuilt, but lost knowledge is irreversible. What was lost at Nalanda was not only philosophy. Medicine was lost, astronomy was lost, mathematics was lost. Each of these took centuries to build, and moments to destroy. We do not know everything that was lost, because Nalanda did not lose its knowledge in silence. It lost it in panic, in smoke, in choices made under fire. No catalog survived, no final list, not even the names of what humanity forgot that day. And yet, this was not the end of Bharath's relationship with knowledge. Nalanda was destroyed, but the instinct to learn, to question, to rebuild did not die with it. Centuries later, that instinct began to surface again, quietly, patiently, through discipline, not display. When Bharath's scientists reached beyond the earth, they did so through preparation, testing, and restraint, not haste. When doctors and researchers faced a global pandemic, science was applied not for celebration, but for the protection of life. When students from Bharath compete and contribute today in mathematics, engineering, medicine, they do so through rigor, not shortcuts. This is not a return to Nalanda. It is something different. Nalanda was rare because knowledge was scarce. Today, knowledge is abundant, and that creates a new responsibility. Bharath is not rising because it remembers Nalanda. Bharath rises when it respects what Nalanda stood for. Discipline over display, knowledge over noise, responsibility over pride. Nalanda burned, but the idea that built it, that learning must be protected, is alive again. And that choice, to honor knowledge properly, belongs to every generation. If this story moved you, please share it with someone who values history. And if you would like to hear more such stories, you may subscribe. What do you think humanity lost at Nalanda? Tell me in the comments.